Hello and welcome to my art history final project for the first semester. The topic of the presentation is Expressionism, an exploration into an artistic revolution. In order to understand Expressionism, we have to start by exploring what it meant as an art movement. Expressionism is a revolutionary art movement that emerged in the late 19th century Germany, challenging the established artistic conventions of its time, namely Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. Expressionism is characterized by radical departure from realism, focusing on conveying raw emotions and subjective experiences rather than the objective representative. The term Expressionism has always lacked a precise definition or origin, but is often attributed to figures like Berlin art dealer Paul Cassirer and artist and art critic Lovis Corinth. Cassirer explicitly labeled Edvard Munch's works as expressionist to distinguish them from previously impressionist artworks. And similarly, Corinth identified young French painters at the 22nd Secession exhibition as expressionists. At first glance, Expressionism is often characterized by distorted forms, vivid colors, and bold brushstrokes, and they sought to illuminate the human psyche. Nevertheless, Expressionism rejects a uniform style, and is evident in the diversity among artists like Kirchner, Kandinsky, Kokoschka, and Otto Dix, whose common bond was no more than their rejection of dominant social and political structures. Rooted in the rejection of existing social structures, Expressionism aimed to depict a utopian counter-war based on the rhythm of nature, and this movement flourished in response to the societal context of the time, marked by the rejection of the impressionist-dominated art scene and the desire for personal emancipation from the pre-World War tensions and the Industrial Revolution at the time. From the late 19th century to the early 20th century, Europe experienced profound societal changes characterized by the rapid industrialization, the spreading urbanization, and the impact and the aftermath of the First World War. During this period of upheaval, set the stage for the emergence of Expressionism, which sought to capture the complexities of the era. This rapid transformation caused by industrialization caused a disconnect from nature and gave rise to cultural movements like symbolism and Fauvism, which challenged traditional artistic norms, paving the way for Expressionism. The increasing tensions and political unrest leading up to the First World War caused the Expressionists to respond to the ongoing social injustices, class disparities, and the dehumanizing effects of industrialization, and sought to break from the established norms and yearn for a utopian vision. The Bridge Group of Artists formed in 1905 by a group of architecture students in Dresden, and the Blue Rider magazine formed by Vasily Kandinsky in 1911 were pivotal in shaping Expressionism, emphasizing collaboration and a spiritual approach to art. The war also acted as a catalyst for Expressionism, with artists like Max Bachmann and Otto Dix capturing the traumatic experiences they had during the war and the social upheavals caused by the aftermath of the war. In a way, the Expressionist movement can be seen as the mirror of a turbulent time, as it was a reaction to the social-political turmoil, the economic disparity, and the trauma of war. Artists of the movement sought to deflect the psychological impact of these conditions. During the movement's peak, Expressionism manifested differently in various regions. The Bridge Group was located in Dresden, while the Blue Rider was prominent in Munich. The Rhenic Expressionism in Rhineland also had a unique characteristic influenced by local context. Urban settings inspire works depicting city life, while rural areas influence more colorful themes. Expressionism essentially was a dynamic response to the diversity of experiences across different locations. The Bridge Group was the most prominent among German expressionist groups that some historians even call the period while the Bridge Group was active as the peak of German Expressionism. The Bridge Group was formed in Dresden in 1905 by 4 architecture students. Their leader, Ernst Louis Kirchner, Erich Hackel, Fritz Bley, and Karl Schmidt-Rottluff. The group emerged as a bohemian collective in opposition to the Germans' established bourgeoisie social order. The name of the bridge indicates the influences on their work, with their art viewed as a bridge between the past, present, and the future, and also a bridge between different art medias. By the time they disbanded in 1913, the group had around 75 associative members. Ernst Ludwig Kirchner was one of the founding members of the Bridge Group, and his aim was to break free from academic constraints and to create art with immediacy. His art style was influenced by Van Gogh, Munch, many Impressionist artists, and non-Western art. After the group disbanded in 1913, he depicted the bustling streets of Berlin, portraying its cosmopolitan chaos and exploring themes of anonymity and intrigue. He volunteered for the World War, but had a subsequent breakdown during service and was discharged. And this discharge led him to rural subjects and experimentation with abstractism. The Nazis labeled his art in German in 1937 and confiscated over 600 pieces of his artworks. And 1 year later, Kirchner tragically took his own life. One of Ernst Ludwig Kirchner's most pivotal works during the movement is Street Berlin, which reflects the artist's experience in the bustling metropolis of Berlin after the dissolution of his group, The Bridge, in 1913. This artwork captures the chaotic energy of a Berlin street scene, with a focus on the 2 boldly painted prostitutes in the foreground. The prostitutes seem to be sliding away from the canvas because of Kirchner's use for anti-naturalistic colors, loose and visible brushwork, and his distorted perspective, creating a sense of motion and confrontation. The painting can be interpreted as a self-portrait, with Kirchner identifying with the plight of the prostitute and expressing the constant pressure to sell himself as an artist, just like these prostitutes do. Another member of the Bridge Group and a close collaborator of Kirchner is Erich Hackel. Hackel mostly acted as the mediator or the manager of the group due to his social skills, and he focused on wood prints most of the time. He volunteered as a Red Cross member for the World War I, and after being discharged, he continued creating artwork. His artworks were also considered degenerate art and destroyed by the Nazis, but he continued to teach and paint until his death in 1970. In this artwork called The Red Houses, Hackel embraces Expressionism with the Bridge style. He departed from traditional landscapes with swift brushstrokes and thinners to create flatness, emphasizing only pure color. The red path and the green grass with complementary contrast reject the traditional depth perspective. The colors separated by black contours showcase artistic qualities independently. In my opinion, this painting shows the Bridge movement's rebellion, conveying immediate impressions and vibrant color symbolism, which is the essence of their group. Distinct from the Dresden-based Bridge Group, the Blue Rider artists in Munich, led by Vasily Kandinsky and Franz Marc, did not have any unified manifesto or collective style. They emerged from the New Artists Association of Munich, a previous group of Impressionist artists, and they showcased diverse artists in exhibitions from 1911 to 1912, including Gabriel Munter and Arno Schoenberg. Unlike the Bridge Group, their focus was on blending various art styles and arts, and Kandinsky's ideals emphasized unity among different art forms. The almanac, the magazine, The Blue Rider, originated from this movement. Vasily Kandinsky, the prominent Russian painter, is more famously known as the key figure in the evolution of abstract art. But during his development period, especially during his Blue Rider period, he painted expressionist artworks with elements of Impressionism, Constructivism, and other art styles. When the war broke out, Kandinsky was deported back to Moscow and faced depression initially and took a year-long hiatus from painting. When he started painting again in 1960, he wanted to paint a portrait of Moscow. Despite his earlier synthetic approach, which only included basic elements, he tried to include elements of the outside world. He depicted the city's monument in a circular arrangement as if it was viewed from the center of the red square. Kandinsky's love for the Moscow sunset is noted as he described it as the culmination of the symphony resonating throughout the city like a massive orchestra. Another founding member of the Blue Rider Journal is Franz Marc, who is known for his vibrant animal paintings, which include bright colors and a lot of emotional depth. He was later influenced by Futurism and Cubism, which made his art to evolve and portray natural abstract forms with spiritual significance and color. His art was also named degenerate art by the Nazis, but most of his artwork survived the World War, and it left a significant impact on the German Expressionist movement, despite his early death during the war. Marc's painting, called The Tower of Blue Horses, is the artwork which best represents the Blue Rider's journal, and it possibly depicts the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and his exemplifies his apocalyptic concerns and the German Expressionist themes. The vertical arrangement of the four blue horses with no depth stacked on each other showcases his repeated lines and shapes. The prominent diagonal vertical line in the middle enhances the stacking effect furthermore and intensifies the tension. The division of the sky into yellow and blue colors gives the unsettling mood, and Marc's use of a crescent moon on the foreground of the horse chest, which is a symbol of the German Expressionists' longing for apocalypse and renewal, reflects their belief in positive change through the impending war. The choice of the color blue also symbolizes hope amidst destruction, reinforcing Marc's vision of the apocalypse as an opportunity for a new world. In the Rhineland, Expressionism was dominated by individual artists who did not have a common group, but they had friendships among themselves and were also closely linked with other centers of German Expressionism. And due to their geographical proximity, they were influenced by Paris and the modernist art movements of Paris. One such artist from the Rhineland was August Macke, who absorbed influences from French Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, and also experienced a Faubourg period. His trips to Paris and his collaborations with Franz Marc shaped his style. And Robert Delaunay's chromatic cubism also left a lasting impact on his style. He blended expressionism and fauvism, and his art prioritized emotion over objective reality. His promising career was cut short by his death on the front lines in Champagne, France, during the First World War. His final work before going off to war, titled Farewell, reflects the prevailing gloom of the war's outbreak. Utilizing ideas from Fauvism, Cubism, Futurism, and also Offism, Macke combined them all into his unique style which flourished during the Expressionist movement, and it gave way to many successive avant-garde movements. One of his most famous work is Farewell, which is also his last known work. It is a painting that expresses the power of feeling through its simple yet vibrant colors and shapes. Some of a younger generation of Expressionists share a distinctive connection to the city, rather than a specific geographical region. And unlike other Expressionists, their common element was the urban environment, expressed through chaotic streets, iron bridges, machines, and the colors of city life. And unlike pre-war Expressionists, their experiences in World War I influenced their art. And while the war marked the end for the Bridge Circle and other Expressionist movements, for these artists like Bergman and Otto Dix, George Grosz, and Felix Müller, it served as a transformative force, shaping their artistic perspective, and it only gave them a start to their artistic journey. And before the war, Expressionism focused on the private aesthetic revolutions, but the city painters post-war shifted towards portraying the man as a social being and a victim of political intrigue, with some of the artists actively engaging in party politics. Later on, most of these artists would go on to form the New Objectivity movement, which is a movement against the political unrest after the World War. The Viennese Expressionism movement emerged as a response to the dominance of Viennese workshops, led by Gustav Klimt. And influenced by Klimt, artists like Kokoschka and Schiele broke away from the ornate styles of post-impressionist movements in 1908 and seeking a direct and radical approach, marking a shift from the good taste. Despite stylistic differences, they share a thematic focus on human existence influenced by Vienna's social and political climate, including Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theories. One of the Vienna Expression scene's most prominent artists, Oskar Kokoschka, transitioned from the decorative Vienna secession style to a daring form of Expressionism in the early 20th century. He is influenced by Sigmund Freud's ideas on dreams and social anxieties. His art, characterized by vivid brushstrokes and bold colors, aimed to engage viewers. His work was free from stylistic constraint and served as a precursor for many later art movements, inspiring both the mid-20th century Expressionists and the late 20th century Neo-Expressionists. In The Tempest or The Bride of the Wind, painted in 1913 by Kokoschka, the artist portrays a tremulous scene on a deep blue background. This painting reflects the complexity of his relationship with his longtime lover, Elmer Muller. The two lovers float in the center of the deep blue sea, with the woman peacefully asleep and the man holding her in a tense embrace, which expresses Kokoschka's intense emotions. This is further depicted by the constructing brushstrokes, where he drew the man with tense, quick strokes, while the woman is rendered more classically with softer brushstrokes. The painting symbolizes the stormy dynamics of his tumultuous relationship with his lover, which captures a moment of trust and tension amidst their personal struggles. Eugen Schiele, another prominent figure in the Austrian Expressionism scene, distinguished himself through a distinctive graphic style and a willingness to distort human figures and a bold departure from the conventional beauty norms. He was renowned for his prolific output. Schiele's portrait and self-portraits are captivating explorations of psychology and sexuality, putting him among one of 20th century's most recognizable artworks. And beyond his artistic prowess, Schiele's scandalous and notorious personal life ended abruptly when he died tragically at the age of 28. In this artwork titled Death and the Maiden, Eugen Schiele's intricate and haunting style can be seen, where a gaunt and disheveled female figure clings to the male figure, which represents death. This composition blends personal and allegorical elements, drawing from the medieval concept of the Dance of Death, and created during Schiele's separation from his longtime lover, and just before marrying his new lover. The painting serves as a memorial to the end of his past relationship and symbolizes the death of his true love. The figures are almost consumed by their clothing and the abstract surroundings, and this evokes the portraiture style of Gustav Klimt, emphasizing Schiele's former connection within the Viennese secession movement. One of the key figures of Expressionism, despite coming from a different location, background, and era than most other Expressionist artists, is the Norwegian symbolist painter Edvard Munch. His childhood was marked by illness, bereavement, and specter of inherited mental conditions. And while studying at the Royal School of Art and Design in Kristiania, Munch embraced a bohemian lifestyle influenced by the nihilist philosopher Hans Jaeger, which led to the development of his distinctive style, known as soul painting, which is considered a form of Expressionism by many art historians. Traveling to Paris and Berlin exposed him to the techniques of artists like Gauguin, Van Gogh, and Toulouse-Lautrec, shaping his use of color. His iconic work, The Scream, emerged from a movement of profound personal anger during a sunset walk in Christiania. His emotional struggles persisted despite his growing fame, and due to his mental breakdown, he had to abandon heavy drinking. Despite the banning of his art in Nazi-occupied Europe, most of his artworks and legacy survived World War II. Edvard Munch's The Scream is a pivotal and one of the most influential artworks in modern art, alongside masterpieces like Van Gogh's Starry Night and Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. It was created around 1900, and the painting's fluid brushwork reflects the sky in Van Gogh Expressionist style, while encompassing elements of Fauvism, Expressionism, and even perhaps Surrealism. Inspired by a moment near a mental hospital, Munch captures the existential dread, recalling a blood-red sunset, and the overwhelming scream. With two painted versions, a pastel and a lithograph, the scream stands as a profound expression of inner turmoil, embodying the anxieties of modern life within the artistic movements of his time. Expressionism's influences reach beyond fine art to literature, drama, stage design, dance, film, and architecture. Despite the diversity among artists, the period of 1905 to 1920, marked by the British group's founding and the post-war unrest, is acknowledged as the peak of Expressionism. The movement's legacy is complex and left an indelible mark on the modern art timeline and influenced various domains while defying a singular defining art style. Expressionism had a profound impact on the course of modern art history, with its influences extending to subsequent movements like abstract expressionism and neo-expressionism later in the 20th century, reflecting the impact of its revolutionary ideas and techniques. Its main characterizations by intense emotional expression and focus on the subjective experience, Expressionism paved the way for artists seeking innovative forms of self-expression, as contemporary artists continue to draw inspiration from the Expressionism's bold use of color, distorted forms, and unconventional compositions to delve into their intricate facets of their human experience. I believe that Expressionism is the most pivotal art movement of the modern art era, as it challenged traditional artistic conventions openly and introduced a new era of subjective expression and emotional depth. We can see its influence not only in the subsequent art movements, but also in the evolution of individual artists who also continue to draw inspiration from the revolutionary spirit of Expressionism. Expressionism's enduring significance lies in its ability to capture the essence of the human experience and translate it onto the canvas or other media. Its radical and bold departure from the existing conventional art styles opened the door for many other artistic experimentations and fostering a rich tapestry of diverse styles and perspectives, which are continuing to shape the landscape of art. So, if we have to reflect on the legacy of Expressionism, we will have to consider it as a movement that transcends its historical roots, leaving an everlasting imprint on the timeline of modern art history.